today to this gathering, a memorial to our dear colleague, JoAnn Taricani. I am Joël Durand, the Interim School of Music Director. A memorial to JoAnn, but also, I believe, a celebration of her continuing presence among us, of the legacy she left on our campus and beyond. A celebration of her achievements, her joys, of the many ways in which she touched people in our community. As a fitting tribute to her presence in the future, I am happy to announce that the staff of the School of Music have expressed the desire to have 2 young flowering trees planted in the corner of our building next to the window of our office. This should happen soon, and we will also have a memorial plaque near the trees. As we listen to testimonies today, we will realize how many people from very many diverse backgrounds JoAnn's work and life had reached, not just in the field of music, but in other fields such as medicine and astronomy, as we will hear from some of our guests who have offered to say a few words this afternoon. Indeed, one of JoAnn's most remarkable qualities lies in the generosity with which she devoted herself to all the activities she undertook, always in the hope of improving what she saw something lacking. I will leave now the floor to our guest, but before, one more word to thank Professor Robin McCabe for her work to organize this event, as well as our staff at the school, in particular Kathy Hollenbach and Joanne Depew. Let us collect our thoughts then as we listen to our first speaker, University of Washington President Anna Marie Cauce.
It's hard when we lose a member of our academic community, but losing JoAnn is an especially painful loss. She has gone much too soon, and her absence is felt by many, many all around this campus and well beyond. Within the School of Music, she leaves a lasting impact as a musician, scholar, innovator, and leader, and particularly as a teacher. Her students will always remember her as a gifted, passionate instructor, and her legacy lives on in them, including the many who have had and will have fabulous careers in the arts. Personally, I'll always remember her work as a faculty liaison and the way that she brought people together across the community to go down to Olympia where we could have impact. I remember, I think I was chair of psychology the very first time that I was part of that group that she took down to Olympia. I remember thinking it was way too early in the morning to take that long drive, and I went with a group of people, and guess who was already there? JoAnn. She had been there about 2 hours before, already sitting through a session. That's the way that JoAnn was, always there, always having impact, always bringing people together. She was such a talented advocate for public higher education. And she also believed deeply in music education's power to not only change lives, but to build lasting connections between people. She was like glue when it came to bringing people together. She understood the need for human connection. And as a member of our faculty, she was greatly loved and admired. She will be deeply missed, and she will also be remembered.
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Cole, Divisional Dean of the Arts, and I'd like to share with you first a poem, When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened examines, gnaws, unkind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. I, like so many of us, was completely shocked by JoAnn's recent passage. She has been a towering figure on this campus in every regard. As a researcher, JoAnn was known for combining meticulous archival research with the insights gained through live performance of historical music. Her detective skills in the archive were legendary, as were her musical editing talents, once described as one of her colleagues as unfailingly precise and attractive. JoAnn's research at the dynamic confluence of primary source material and its musical interpretation was, in the words of one musicologist, quote, path-breaking and innovative on a scale I have frankly rarely, if ever, seen in my field. As a teacher, JoAnn prioritized students. She said, overall, I try to adapt each course according to what I think will expand the thinking and experiences of students, whether in academic writing and research or performance discoveries. At the core of my teaching is a conviction that students best remember and learn from projects they develop themselves. And as a leader on the University of Washington campus, JoAnn served for over 30 years with boundless energy and tenacity. The list of her leadership appointments is formidable within the School of Music and the Academic Senate, with the UW Medical Center Board and our legislative representative in Olympia. The list goes on. JoAnn once said of this work, quote, I believe that faculty who want the benefit of shared governance need to invest their own time and energy in the many opportunities of participating in faculty governance at this or any university. She added, much of this work is invisible, but essential. JoAnn, your work was not invisible to us here at the University of Washington. The legacy of your contributions will carry on well into the future. We saw you then. We see you now. We will be and be better because of you.
A few weeks after JoAnn's passing, one of my own graduate students came up to me and said, you know, Dr. McCabe, a couple of years ago, I was standing outside your studio door getting ready for my entrance audition, and I was so nervous. I was shaking like a leaf. And there was a lady down the hallway watching me. She walked over to me, and she said, you're auditioning, aren't you? I can tell. I probably nodded numbly. And she put her hand on my arm, and she said, don't worry, it will be all right. It will be all right. And Dr. McCabe, I found out later that that woman was Professor Taricani. Now, my student will never forget that act of unsolicited kindness in an empty school corridor. JoAnn was one of the first faculty people who reached out to me upon my arrival here decades ago. She was interested in my background, interested in my passions. And since then, I've known her in many roles: a brilliant, meticulous scholar, a razor-sharp wit, unafraid to inject the occasional dollop of self-deprecation into the conversation, very, very winning, an incredibly caring teacher. She didn't believe learning should be pain-free. She stretched her students with joy, and she changed minds, which is really what learning is. A devoted servant to civic community causes. And most of all, I knew her as a friend. She was a meaningful presence in my life and remains so. Now, I speak with considerable personal experience when I tell you that the early weeks of a new director's term are pretty much supposed to be halcyon days. There's a new fragrance in the air, a new excitement about the new person in the chair, and faculty and staff are energized with new aspirations and goals. I had that positive chemistry, and it energized me. JoAnn had none of this. She certainly had the goodwill of all of us, but almost from the beginning, she was plunged into a vortex of competing emergent needs. That her stance was by necessity reflexive, defensive, and she worked at this fiercely and tirelessly. She never complained to me, although I know it was enervating for her. She took all the action she could, strategic and practical, to keep us protected. And we are the beneficiaries of all that. So when I think about JoAnn, I think of all these qualities that we're sharing today. JoAnn lived what I call the authentic life. And by that, I don't mean the number of initials behind her name, or titles, tiers of accomplishment, pedigrees of authority. JoAnn wore all those badges, to my mind, without pretense. But the authentic life is the life that connects meaningfully and enduringly to others. When we are gone, what will we have meant to others? Philip Larkin says that what will survive of us is love. This afternoon is confirmation of the wide swath of influence and impact that JoAnn had on so many others in many walks of life. So now, JoAnn has gone to join what George Eliot called the choir invisible, whose music is the gladness of the world. And it's a pretty safe wager that if she's not by now the director of this ensemble, she is at the very least a section leader. And we can be certain, ladies and gentlemen, that the music is pitch perfect. Rest in peace, my friend.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Paul Ramsey, the Chief Executive Officer of UW-Medicine and a Professor of Medicine. Thank you, Robin, very much for the chance to speak this afternoon about JoAnn Taricani, a truly remarkable person who cared so much about our community and did so much to make our community a better place. JoAnn and I had a similar background. We were both born in Pennsylvania, educated in the Northeast, and joined the UW faculty in 1980. But I did not have a chance to really get to know JoAnn for my first 20 years here in Seattle. I was a professor of medicine, JoAnn, professor of music. Our career paths did not intersect. Until JoAnn was actively involved in the faculty senate, and I became involved in administrative activities and some work in Olympia, and our paths intersected. And she developed a sincere interest in medicine, a sincere interest in UW-Medicine. In the last 20 years, I have been extremely fortunate to have learned from JoAnn, and JoAnn has truly made UW-Medicine a better place. UW-Medicine has benefited tremendously from JoAnn Taricani's leadership. UW-Medicine, for those of you who are not familiar with us, is a large, integrated clinical research and learning health system. We are a large organization that includes the UW School of Medicine, 3 hospitals, and multiple nonprofit organizations. To oversee our activities, we have a number of boards, both advisory boards and governing boards. These advisory and governing boards oversee all that we do and are responsible for holding us to advancing a mission of improving health for all people. JoAnn was a member of a number of these boards, a member of the senior most boards we have. She served with distinction, with true distinction, on all of the boards. These boards included the UW-Medicine board that had overall responsibility for UW-Medicine and was responsible for our simple mission statement of improving the health of the public, that is, improving health for all people. As you've heard, JoAnn also served on the UW Medical Center board. This is the governance board that's responsible for the quality of care of our largest hospital and responsible for accreditation of our largest hospital. She also served more recently on the UW-Medicine Primary Care Clinic Board, another governing board for one of our nonprofit organizations that provides ambulatory care for the citizens of King County in multiple locations around King County. JoAnn also served, if those boards weren't enough, on the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance Board, a nonprofit organization that until recently served as a cancer clinical care organization and was owned by the Fred Hutch Cancer Research Center, UW-Medicine, and Seattle Children's Hospital. Why do I say that JoAnn Taricani served with distinction on these boards? She was recognized by her fellow board members, and I can say with great confidence, all UW-Medicine leaders, as an ideal role model for a board member, a truly ideal role model. Her integrity, intelligence, ability to listen and ask important questions, and her fundamental commitment to mission and values were all exemplary. These boards often dealt with very complicated issues, with extensive background materials provided to the board members in advance of the meetings. As those of you who worked with JoAnn would imagine, JoAnn was legendary for her meticulous preparation prior to board meetings. Not all board members do that, but when a board member does that, it really shows. And I believe that by reading all the materials, considering carefully the materials in advance, JoAnn's preparation for our board meetings led her to ask the important questions. A combination of her personal qualities of listening and intelligence helped, but her meticulous preparation with her intelligence and integrity and commitment to mission led her to asking the most important questions, often in a quiet fashion. And these questions really helped guide our decision-making to advance the mission of improving health. I know that I speak for all members of the UW-Medicine leadership team when I say that JoAnn Taricani truly served with distinction in leading us, and she was responsible for setting the tone of excellence for the clinical research and learning programs that are UW-Medicine. I learned personally from JoAnn. I benefited from her mentorship. Her genuine commitment to making our university a better place provided a roadmap for me and all who were fortunate to work with her. I came to realize that a professor of medicine and a professor of music have much in common. Some may think that medicine is all science and evidence-based, STEM career. But to succeed with a mission to improve health for all people, medicine must also be an art practiced by a team of professionals who are committed to harmony, balance, and rhythm in the practice of their profession. Outstanding musical performance and outstanding medical care have much in common. If I had the power to do so, I would make JoAnn Taricani a professor of medicine to go along with being a professor of music. It's really not at all surprising that JoAnn was such an excellent leader, both in music and in medicine. JoAnn made us all better professionals with her leadership by example. Her legacy of commitment to excellence, meticulous, careful preparation, and true caring for others, whether in her chosen profession of music or in the profession that she helped lead in medicine, these are qualities that will live in perpetuity. JoAnn was an inspiring role model for me, and I am so thankful that I had the chance to work with her for the last few decades. I will miss her. Professor of Music and Medicine, JoAnn Taricani.
When JoAnn arrived at the University of Washington to take an important place on the music faculty, our initial interview for the Seattle Times in 1980 is one I still remember. Often new arrivals in important posts will talk in the press about what they want to achieve. I want to set up this or that program. I want to implement my vision for this or that development. For JoAnn, it was all about the students. How gifted and imaginative they were, how they could get the best and most enjoyable opportunities to learn and thrive. She saw music and concerts as a beautiful immersion into a soundscape of eras different from our own. JoAnn had a lively sense of fun, and she remembered that music has always been great entertainment. One example from those early years, a 1983 program in the series Body and Amorous Music of the Renaissance, quoted JoAnn saying, quote, "Crowded conditions at recent Collegium Musicum concerts necessitated an extra show." Let me just say here that calls for an extra show of Renaissance music on original instruments are not often heard. Her scholarly achievements brought JoAnn high international regard and prestigious awards, but she was not too busy to send a thoughtful letter to a local critic when she wanted to comment on something that I had written. JoAnn was an articulate and passionate advocate for her students who meant the world to her. Over the years, I often heard from student musicians about JoAnn's generous heart and her dedication to helping them find their best pathways forward. She has truly made a difference.
Hi, I'm JoAnn's sister. My name is Ellen. Give you a chance to see the resemblance here. Not a lot, but some. So greetings from State College, Pennsylvania. That's our hometown, which is the town around Penn State. In case you don't know where that is, it's smack in the middle of the state. And I know that our family is very appreciative of everything you've done and the ways you've been honoring my sister. And, you know, I think it's amazing with the medicine connection. That's just pretty cool. So we come from, sorry, I shouldn't talk so loud in there. We come from a family of a lot of Josephs. So JoAnn, okay, you get that part. So we had my father's father, Giuseppe, they come over from Italy. And then we have my dad, who was Joseph, and he is married to was married to my mother, Dolores, who is in State College, Pennsylvania. And she really, I think, would love to be here. I know she's watching right now, so hi, Mom. And I know it's like for us, it's really neat to hear so much. Like you all, everybody I've talked to just has so many good stories of her life. So that's really nice. So going on with our family, if you don't know, she had a brother that lives in Southern California, and his name is Joseph. We call him Joe. And he's married to Colleen, and they have 2 children. The one son is named Joseph. This is like the Greek wedding movie, you know, Nick. Anyway, so Joey, we call him, is finishing high school and starting college next year. I don't know if he applied here or not, but yeah, he should. And then we had his sister, Catherine, or Kate, we call her, has this amazing musical talent. She's in musicals, and she plays piano so well. She has some real gifts in there. So, and then my other brother is Tom, and he lives in State College, and he's married to Betsy, and they have a son, and guess what his name is? That's right, Joseph. Joseph Robert. He's named after his grandfather and his mother's father. Yeah, I got that right. So he's Joseph Robert. We call him JR. So the continuation of the Josephs. It's kind of funny in a way, but it's true. So I teach at Penn State, and one of the things I've been doing this semester, just to try it out, is getting my students to make analogies of different concepts to see how they understand things. It's supposed to be a good technique, and it actually has been. So on my flight out here, I wrote a couple for you about JoAnn. See if you like them or not, I don't know. In her mind was a symphony of historic significance. A book to her was a doorway to new, amazing adventures. Finding musical significance was like finding a beautiful buried treasure. I just picture her, I mean, I'm in academics myself, and you know, sometimes you read something, it's like, wow, and it just opens up to you, this bright light goes off, and you're just ready to explore more about it. And I know she was doing that a lot. I recently read some quotes by Anne Lamott, who was going to be turning 68, JoAnn's age, and she said, by 68, you know the whole system of our lives, and it works like you're always ready to have a party or something, like it's always there for you, you know, you're trying to put things together. And all we have to do is look up and fly away. So we look up. In 68 years, I have never seen a boring sky. Okay, so I don't know if she lives in Seattle. But you guys, okay, so thank you so much for the beautiful weather I've had since I've been here. I thought it was going to rain every day and be cloudy. So, and I don't know, I think a lot of you like the cloudy skies because you live here. So there must be something there. All right, so JoAnn, actually, you know, while we grew up, she would be the one that my mother would say, go out and play. So my brother and I, we'd go out and play and have fun. She'd go out with her book and sit there and read. She always wanted to read and learn. She had that in her. And it was from a very young age. So she was always the smart one. But I eventually got smart. It took me longer. Okay. Anyway, I like to make people laugh, so in case you were wondering. So there's just so much, and you know this, because a lot of you are in fields where you are learning, so there's just so much to learn. I don't think we ever stop learning. So also in the book of Ecclesiastes, in chapter 3, it says in the Bible, it says, for everything there's a reason. A season, sorry, get the right word there. For everything there is a season. A time for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to harvest. When I read that, I was just thinking about how we plant a lot of seeds. We try to grow a lot of things in our lives. And as we do that, at the end, there's a harvest. And all I can think is that many of you are going to be harvesting a lot of what she planted. Many of you are going to experience just newness of understanding, and you're going to come up with some really good things in the future that we'll be looking back and saying, oh, that's because of my mentor, JoAnn Taricani. She really helped me in that way. So, basically, I just want to thank you again, and we appreciate your support and all your love. So that's all.
Hello, my name is Chris Laws. I'm a professor in astronomy at the University of Washington here and chair of the Faculty Senate. And thank you very much, Robin, and thank you to all of you. It's a profound honor, if saddening, to be invited to speak today here at this beautiful celebration in remembrance of our friend and our colleague, JoAnn. I'm glad you're enjoying the lovely weather, the sunshine, and the beautiful music, and thank you to the musicians. They're conspiring, I think, to remind us of the beauty and joy that life contains even in its saddest moments, to remind us how our communities come together under the light of stars to sing songs of love and pain. And this community today has spoken very clearly of its love for JoAnn. You were not invisible, JoAnn. We saw you. You're path-breaking. We saw you dedicated to teaching. We saw you asking the most important questions. We saw when great trees fall, we plant trees. We put a hand on a shoulder because it will be all right. The community has spoken clearly of its love for JoAnn. And JoAnn spoke and lived clearly her dedication and love for her community, for the School of Music, for the university, for her many friends, her family. JoAnn infused her life's core with service to her community. And that is how I met JoAnn and came to know her as her dedicated colleague in Senate leadership, the faculty branch of shared governance here at the University of Washington. During most of our many, many years together, JoAnn served as the UW's faculty legislative representative to Olympia, which you've heard about, and she was famous for working with our state legislators tirelessly to support the university, though if I'm being honest, I do think some of the legislators may have tired her from time to time. But JoAnn was probably most famous in that role for striving to bring a faculty member to the governor-appointed UW Board of Regents, an endeavor that failed in so many sessions that even the most dedicated of us began to suspect it may be more chaotic than not. But JoAnn never gave up on the core of the idea that UW faculty should be present and empowered at the highest levels of decision-making here at the university. And she continued working towards that goal every year, including this one, right up until the end. And though it is far beyond bittersweet that she passed from us without knowing the results of this year's debating and this year's votes, I am proud beyond words to say that she finally succeeded. That success in bringing a faculty regent to UW, however, will only be one part of her larger legacy of leadership, as we've heard and seen today. JoAnn was a leading voice in her department, her college, other colleges, our entire university, our athletics community, our city, our state, peer institutions around the country and around the world. As the chair of the Faculty Senate, it's my responsibility, it's my joy to engage with the UW community writ as large as possible. And I can assure you that there are very few corners of our university, however extended you want to consider that idea to be, that JoAnn did not touch and did not bring light and joy and thoughtfulness to. It's that steady light that I miss the most these last several weeks. JoAnn's consistent presence, her calming wisdom, her resonant smile. But if my nighttime sky is now missing one of its most constant and brightest stars, it's only that its light has moved inside me, and I no longer need to look outside for direction. Thank you, JoAnn, for the direction, for the song and the light of your life. And thank you all for allowing me to share this love with you.
Good afternoon. It's a true honor to be able to share some memories about JoAnn, who was my teacher for a number of years, and I consider her a mentor. My remarks will only affirm what we've already heard in the tributes to JoAnn today about her character and about her commitment to this university, to her students, to her colleagues, and to her friends. I met JoAnn 35 years ago. In 1987, I was a sophomore music major here at the university. I was on the cusp of realizing I would not be continuing as a piano performance major, please pardon me, Robin, and was leaning toward music history, and JoAnn quickly became the teacher of many of my classes and soon my advisor, given my interest in early music. She guided my studies through the completion of my master's degree. But after I graduated, JoAnn continually provided opportunities for me to remain involved here at the university and took, I think, really extraordinary efforts to tailor those opportunities to my interests. She allowed me to co-direct the Collegium Musicum with her. She allowed me to teach a seminar on 16th century Tudor polyphony and 18th century New England vocal music and things that she knew I was interested in. And I know those were extraordinary opportunities and valuable for me in being able to develop expertise. And JoAnn provided me those really formative opportunities, from being a visiting scholar to being an auxiliary faculty member. Just 2 years ago, JoAnn and I had worked together to organize a conference around the ballet Giselle that was going to be co-sponsored by the university and Pacific Northwest Ballet, where I work. And sadly, that conference wasn't able to go ahead because of COVID. But all of this to say, this was so like JoAnn, to stay apprised of her students and her colleagues and what they were interested in, and to involve herself in those things. I would periodically receive a phone call and I'd hear, "Hi, Doug, it's JoAnn Taricani, I was just thinking of you." And then she would tell me about an article she had read, or a television show she had seen, or a performance she had been to, and she thought of me and how I would be interested in those things too, or how I might benefit from being connected with a person involved in those, and how she was able to facilitate that. JoAnn was a connector, as we have heard. It's an exceptional quality, and I think there are many of us in this room who are connected, at least in part, because of JoAnn. More recently, JoAnn invited me to return to school. There was a position open for a graduate student in music history. And this was right about the time when she was starting the directorship of the school. I know it was a very fraught time, and yet, like JoAnn, she was still thinking of ways to involve others and connect others. In typical fashion, at least with me, JoAnn was very soft sell. I had not planned to return to school. I had actually planned not to return to school. And JoAnn said, just think about getting your PhD. She said, you might be glad you did. It might be useful. Just think about it. And I'm glad I did, and I'm so glad that JoAnn encouraged me the numerous times she did over the years. I'm very sad that she will not see me complete the degree. I feel proud that I'm able to do this. I owe much to her, as I know many of us feel we do, for her encouragement of me. But I know that I will continue to be inspired by her example, her dedication, her care, and her commitment. And I know that JoAnn's many contributions here and in many of our lives will continue to enrich us. Thank you.
On behalf of the students and the faculty of our School of Music, I'd like to offer our collective thanks to all of you for coming today, sharing your thoughts, sharing your music, and mostly sharing your hearts being here at this important time. At the end of the choir's second piece, the Requiem, I want to invite you to remain seated quietly as we listen to a postlude, a fitting postlude. Es ist ein Rosensprungen of Johannes Brahms. It is built upon a hymn that speaks about new life in the midst of dark, in the midst of winter, in the midst of trouble, that hope for new life begins. And after that, please join us all at a reception to have a chance to visit and to warm our hearts with each other and visiting.
Kommen mit